Hello, screenwriters. We are back for another episode of Five Questions with a Screenwriter. And today we have screenwriter Peter R. Feuchtwanger. Am I saying this right?
No, you did well. Peter Feuchtwanger.
Let's get started. What are three screenplays every new screenwriter should read, in your opinion?
Um, I I believe it really. I think I had mentioned this to you earlier that it depends on the genre that you are writing in. Like, obviously, if you're writing in horror, then there are probably a different set of screenplays. For me, I write multiple genres. I always go back to the first screenplay I ever read, which is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid by William Goldman. I also think one of the gold standard screenplays is Michael Clayton by Tony Gilroy. I think Cord Jefferson's screenplay for American Fiction is just brilliant. What he did to adapt the book and to make the screenplay its own thing was pretty amazing, and I guess the Academy agreed because they gave him the Oscar for it.
All right, okay. Question number two. What is something a screenwriter will never learn in a book?
Um, you know, Ed Solomon does a kind of podcast interview called Word by Word, where he talks to working screenwriters, and it's an amazing thing. I highly recommend it. But his new wife, they just had a child, Lucy Preble, put forth the statistic that of people who say they're writing screenplays, only 5% actually are. And of that 5%, only 5% finish a screenplay. And of that 5%, only 5% will rewrite. And the thing that they don't talk about much in books is rewriting. Writing is rewriting. You can't just finish a screenplay and say, I've done it, I'm brilliant, I'm, practicing my Oscar speech, because you've just started, really. Your first draft, you've just started the process of writing a screenplay.
It's interesting you mentioned that about rewriting. So when I was starting out, I would read a lot of books, and the books never mentioned anything about rewriting, at least the books I was reading. So, so I had to learn, obviously, through trial and error and experience that writing is rewriting. And I'll be honest, I know it's necessary, but I hate it. I mean, because I want to be done, right? But nope, it's never done.
No, and I highly recommend, getting peer reads from other writers. And, if you need to, there are services where you can pay to have professional readers evaluate and see you know, the problem areas in your script as well as what works. Good feedback doesn't tell you what you should do to fix it. They just tell you what the issue is, and you have to solve the problem. The writer of Taxi Driver, he was teaching a college course 20 years after Taxi Driver had come out. And one of the students in the course asked him about a specific thing in the Taxi Driver script. And he had a hard copy, and he handed it to him, and he looks at it, and he grabs a pen. He goes, "No, that's no good." He wasn't done. The movie's been out for 20 years. He wasn't done. And it happens all the time.
That is such a great story. Okay, so you hear that, screenwriters out there? It's never done. It's
It's
never
never
done.
done. And literally, yes, it in a way it's done if it's up on a screen and an audience is seeing it. But really, up until that moment, it's still in a state of flux. When you go into production, There's still adjustments being made to the script.
All right. Question number three. What is the greatest character arc you've seen in a story?
Wow.
I know it's a lot to choose from. I'm sorry.
um, I mean, you know, Barbie has an amazing character arc, right? That's, I think, you know, the greatest change from beginning to end in terms of a character.
All right. Question number four. What was the first screenplay you wrote, and what was that writing process like?
Well, I mean, there's two answers to that. There is the first screenplay that I co-wrote, and then right after that, the first one that I wrote solo. The first one that I co-wrote, you know, we were kind of finding our way. We knew nothing at all, and yet looking back at it, not that I would ever let anybody read this. Because, you know, the first one is usually the one you just put in a drawer and lock away. It's definitely of its time. It's like incredibly dated. So is the second one, really, but the second one takes place in 1991, so it's it's dated, you know, because it can be. Uh, but what I discovered in writing that first screenplay is that the three act structure was already naturally inside of me. That when we wrote this screenplay, there was a clear first, second, and third act to it, without thinking about the structure, without thinking about, you know, putting in the plot points, or, you know, we didn't outline it. We just wrote and ended up with a screenplay that was actually properly structured.
How do you think that's interesting? You mentioned the three act structure was already in your head without even like knowing about it. How would you explain that?
Devoured films. My father would take me to amazing movies. He, you know, like when I was a kid, he would take me to see Seven Samurai and like French movies and Italian movies. He took me to see everything, and, you know, James Bond and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and whatever. But we would go, you know, like I was 10 years old and we'd go to an art house and see Throne of Blood, Akira Kurosawa's version of Macbeth.
All right. This is the final question. So you get to plan and go on a date, a non-romantic date with your current main character. What does that date look like?
Well, the one that I'm writing now, it would take place on a pirate ship in the middle of the ocean.
Okay. What would you guys do in the middle of the ocean, a pirate ship?
Well, you know, maybe we'll have a nice little table set up on the deck and look at the stars, and hope the candle doesn't blow out.
This has been five question with a screenwriter, Peter Feuchtwanger. Thank you, Peter. Are you writing anything at the moment?
Well, I am. I don't think I can talk about it because it's more of, you know, other than, you know, that there's a pirate ship involved. As much as I hate the idea that we're recycling IP, it is based on IP and beloved IP, but it's something I really want to write. I have two other screenplays that I'm working on. One is kind of a mostly contained espionage thriller, and the other one is kind of a takeoff on Hallmark movies called Arbor Day. It's a anti-Hallmark holiday film where tree planting is the holiday.
What TV show or recent film you've seen that you would recommend to our viewers?
Oh, well, I mean, I love The Bear. I think The Bear is just brilliant. I think it's got some of the most brilliant writing. I mean, in terms of writing, The Bear, it's not recent, but the new season's coming up. Andor. I mean, Tony Gilroy is an amazing writer. And the other one with a new season coming up is The Old Man with Jeff Bridges and Amy Brennerman, John Lithgow, and Aaliyah Shawkat. I'm looking forward to the second season because the first season, as I kept saying to people, the writing was Michael Clayton good.
Is there anything else that you want to share with our viewers?
Just if you're writing, protect your writing time, carve it out, protect it, make a plan, and don't let distractions like I don't keep social media on my laptop. I have it on my phone, but not my laptop because when I'm writing, I don't want notifications and surprises coming up. I just want to be focused on my writing.
All right, Peter, this has been fun. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us on 5 Questions with a Screenwriter.